The Galactic Council chamber was built to hold the voices of 100 species. It was vast, shaped like a great circle, with rows of raised seats spreading outward from the center. Each seat belonged to a different world, some small and weak, others mighty and ancient. The ceiling shimmered with blue light, casting reflections on the polished floor where the speakers stood. On this day, the chamber was louder than ever. Arguments echoed in many languages, and even with the translation systems, the noise felt like thunder. The subject was Earth. Humanity had only joined the council 10 years ago, but in that short time they had upset the balance of power. Some races shouted for strict limits. Others demanded that Earth's fleets be cut in half. A few even called for sanctions, saying humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable, and too dangerous to be left unchecked. Their words rose like a storm, filled with fear and pride. In the middle of the storm sat Daniel, the human representative. He wore the dark uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, though the simple cut of the fabric made him look plainer than the richly dressed alien delegates around him. He sat with his hands folded, watching and listening while chaos spread across the chamber. His calmness stood out. Where others shouted and waved their arms, he did not move. A towering reptilian delegate slammed his claws against the railing of his seat. "Humans take worlds too quickly," he roared. "They build fleets with no respect for balance. They must be restrained." A bird-like envoy with bright feathers clicked her beak and added, "Earth has grown strong without asking permission. If they continue this way, no one will control them. That cannot be allowed." More voices joined. Some spoke with anger, others with fear. They all pointed to the same concern. Humanity's rise had been fast, and the council was not ready for it. Daniel could hear every word. The translation system turned the storm into clear speech in his ear. He leaned back slightly and let them speak. He did not argue. He did not try to explain Earth's position. He waited. Not all the voices were against Earth. A few smaller species spoke in defense of humanity. A thin, insect-like envoy tapped its antennae and said, "The humans trade fairly with us. They help our colonies with supplies. They are not our enemies." Another, with skin like glass, said, "Earth's fleets protect routes the council ignored. Without them, pirates would destroy us." But these voices were drowned out by the greater powers. The elder races, who had ruled the council for centuries, refused to hear anything that threatened their control. The chamber lights flickered, signaling the beginning of the formal session. A great figure rose from the central podium, an ancient being with a body of silver scales. This was the speaker of the council. His voice carried through the chamber, deep and commanding. "Order," he called. "The council will hear the matter of Earth's place among us." The chamber quieted, though the silence was heavy and tense. All eyes turned toward the center, where Daniel remained seated. The speaker's eyes glowed faintly as he looked at him. "Human representative," the speaker said, "the council has gathered to decide your species' future. You will listen to the charges. You will answer when called." Daniel gave a small nod. His expression stayed calm, though inside his mind he weighed every word he had heard. Humanity had always known this day would come. The council tolerated no rival, and Earth's rapid growth made them nervous. Still, hearing the anger and fear so openly was something different. The first charge was read. It accused Earth of building war fleets too quickly. The second claimed that humans spread colonies into unclaimed space without approval. The third declared that Earth supported rebellion on council worlds, though no proof was given. Every charge carried the same message: Humanity was a threat. The elder races began their speeches one by one, each repeating the same demands. Earth must surrender advanced weapons. Earth must give up its colonies. Earth must place its fleets under council command. Daniel listened. He did not speak. He sat like stone while the storm raged. To the other delegates, his silence looked like weakness. To him, it was patience. He glanced once at the other human envoys seated nearby. They met his eyes and gave slight nods. All of them understood. Humanity had prepared for this moment long before they stepped into this chamber. As the speeches went on, the council chamber grew hotter with anger. Some demanded immediate punishment. Others called for Earth to be expelled from the council entirely. A few even suggested force, though they stopped short of saying it openly. By the time the speaker struck the podium to quiet them again, the chamber was close to breaking apart. Never before had the council faced such division over a single young race. The speaker looked down at Daniel once more. His voice carried the weight of centuries. "Human representative," he said, "you have heard the council's concerns. Soon you will be given the chance to speak. Choose your words carefully, for the future of your people depends on them." Daniel rose slowly to his feet. His calm eyes swept across the chamber, meeting the stares of dozens of alien leaders. His hands rested behind his back as he waited. He had not yet spoken, but his silence had already become the sharpest voice in the chamber. The storm was not over. It was only beginning. The council chamber was quiet now, though the silence felt heavier than the storm of voices before. Dozens of alien eyes fixed on Daniel as he stood in the center. The speaker of the council motioned to the envoys of the elder races. It was their turn to present the demands to Earth. A tall figure with skin like dark stone rose first. His species was one of the founding powers of the council. He spoke slowly, each word sharp and cold. "Humanity has grown without balance. Your fleets expand into regions that belong to no one. Your colonies take worlds without asking leave. This cannot continue. Therefore, you must reduce your military strength by half. Your weapons will be handed over to the council for safekeeping." The chamber murmured with approval from many seats. Daniel stood still, his expression calm. The envoy sat down, and another rose. This one belonged to a race with long, glowing tendrils that swayed as she spoke. "Earth has disturbed the order of trade. You mine resources at a rate that drains star systems. You undercut the markets that the council has maintained for centuries. You must surrender your trade rights and pay tribute in resources to the council treasury. If not, your commerce will be blocked." Again, the chamber filled with approving noise. Daniel kept his hands folded behind his back, unmoved. A third envoy, this one a heavy-bodied creature with armor like scales, stood. His deep voice rumbled through the chamber. "Your colonies spread in all directions. Already, settlers from Earth have reached the borders of council protectorates. These colonies are not approved. They will be dismantled, and your people will be recalled to Earth. If you refuse, the council will send fleets to remove them." The words echoed like a threat, though none of the envoys admitted it aloud. Everyone knew what it meant. More demands followed. Some spoke with arrogance, others with fear, but all carried the same meaning: Earth must bend. Earth must obey. Humanity must not rise too quickly. When the last of the demands was spoken, the speaker of the council turned to Daniel. His glowing eyes studied the human for a long moment. "You have heard the will of the council," he said. "Your people are given a choice. Accept these terms and remain among us. refuse, and suffer the consequences. The chamber waited. The silence was deep, filled with tension. Dozens of envoys leaned forward in their seats, eager to hear how the human would answer. They expected fear. They expected protest. They expected Daniel to argue and beg for mercy. But Daniel did not speak right away. Instead, he looked slowly around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each alien leader in turn. His calm gaze unsettled them. They had seen humans fight with passion, but they had not seen one face the council with such steady silence. Finally, Daniel's voice broke the silence. The council believes humanity is too dangerous to stand free. You say we must surrender our weapons, our fleets, our colonies, and our right to trade. You believe that Earth should bow, because our strength grows faster than you expected. His words were clear, each one carried by the translators to every corner of the chamber. Some envoys stirred angrily at his tone. Others leaned closer, sensing something more beneath his calmness. Daniel continued, humanity has always known struggle. On our own world, we fought nature, famine, and storms. We fought one another until we learned unity. Every step forward was taken against resistance. We did not ask for ease. We did not ask for permission. And we will not begin now. A ripple of noise spread through the chamber. Some envoys cried out in anger. Others whispered in shock. Daniel's words were not the desperate plea they expected. They were a quiet defiance. The speaker's eyes narrowed. Do you mean to refuse the will of the council? Daniel's calm gaze turned to him. I mean to tell you that humanity cannot be ruled by fear. We are part of this galaxy, but we are not slaves to it. We will not give up the right to defend ourselves, to trade, or to build homes on the stars. If that is refusal, then yes. Humanity refuses. The chamber erupted. Shouts filled the air in dozens of languages. Some envoys demanded his arrest. Others demanded war. A few remained silent, watching carefully. The smaller races, who had once spoken in Earth's defense, sat straighter now, their eyes gleaming with quiet hope. The speaker struck the podium, calling for order. The chamber quieted again, though the anger had not faded. His voice rumbled like thunder. You defy the will of the council. Think carefully, human. To walk this path is to set yourselves against every great power in this chamber. Daniel's answer was simple. Humanity has walked alone before. The words struck the chamber harder than any shout. For a moment, no one spoke. Even the speaker's voice faltered as he studied the human representative. Daniel stood steady, unshaken by the storm of anger that surrounded him. Behind him, the other human envoys rose to their feet. They did not speak, but their quiet movement showed unity. No one in the chamber could mistake it. The speaker raised his hand, but before he could continue, Daniel reached into his pocket and placed a small silver device on the table. Its surface gleamed in the chamber light. None of the aliens recognized it, but its quiet presence changed the air at once. Daniel looked at the council one last time. You believe humanity will kneel. You are wrong. And with that, the true storm began. The silver device sat on the table, gleaming under the chamber lights. Every alien eye turned toward it. Some whispered, wondering if it was a weapon. Others leaned back, uncertain of what Daniel had just placed before them. The chamber's translators carried the whispers into dozens of languages, filling the air with uneasy tension. Daniel did not move. His calmness made the device seem even more mysterious. Slowly, he pressed a single button on its surface. At once, a projection filled the center of the chamber. It was a fleet. Hundreds of human warships appeared in the hologram, spread across the black of space. Cruisers, carriers, and smaller escorts hovered in formation. Their hulls bore the mark of Earth's United Defense Force. The image was so sharp that even the smallest details could be seen: the lines of new armor, the glow of engines, the shape of weapons that most species had never encountered. The chamber went silent. Even the loudest voices, the ones that had called for war and punishment, fell quiet. Many had believed Earth was dangerous, but none had expected this. Humanity had not only kept pace with the galaxy's powers, it had built a fleet that could rival them. Daniel's voice broke the silence. "This is what we have built while you argued over rules and limits. You demanded that we surrender our weapons. Instead, we prepared. You believed we were too small to stand alone. Instead, we made sure we could." The words were calm, not shouted, but they struck harder than any threat. Several envoys shifted uncomfortably. Some reached for the controls on their desks, recording every detail of the hologram to send back to their governments. A delegate with golden skin finally found his voice. "This is a violation. The Council forbids the construction of fleets of this size without approval." Daniel turned his eyes toward him. "We did not ask for approval. We built because we knew this day would come. Humanity has never trusted its survival to the hands of others." A scaled envoy slammed his claws on the railing. "You dare show force in this chamber? This is arrogance. This is a declaration of war." Daniel shook his head. "No. It is not war we seek. It is freedom. We came to this council in good faith. We shared our trade. We offered peace. But when peace was not enough, we prepared to defend ourselves. You demanded that we bow. We chose not to." His words carried across the chamber, and the smaller races listened closely. For years they had lived under the rules of the elder powers, paying tribute, surrendering their rights, obeying every decree. Now they watched as a single human stood in the center of the council and refused. The speaker of the council rose slowly, his silver-scaled body towering above the others. His deep voice rumbled with restrained anger. "Human representative, you risk the stability of this galaxy. You risk the peace that has lasted for centuries. Do you believe your people can stand against us all?" Daniel met his eyes without fear. "We do not seek to stand against everyone. But if the choice is submission or struggle, humanity has always chosen to struggle. We will not kneel. Not to you. Not to anyone." A sharp cry came from the bird-like envoy with bright feathers. "Then you bring doom upon yourselves. The council will not allow this defiance to stand." Daniel's answer was steady. "Then the council must decide whether it will live with humanity as equals, or see what happens when it tries to break us." The hologram of the fleet still glowed in the air. The warships seemed to hang in silence, as if waiting for the council's answer. The image was not a threat of attack, but a message: Earth was ready. Around the chamber, anger mixed with fear. The elder powers hissed and growled, but the smaller races whispered to each other with new hope. A few delegates even nodded quietly, their expressions hidden from the elder powers who glared in rage. The speaker struck the podium again, demanding silence. "This chamber will not be used for threats. Humanity has shown disrespect to the council. You will withdraw this projection at once." Daniel reached forward and pressed the button again. The hologram vanished. The device lay silent, no longer glowing. Yet its memory lingered in every mind present. He spoke once more, his voice calm but sharp. You wanted proof that humanity is too dangerous to ignore. You have it. Now you must decide what to do with it. But understand this. Whatever you decide, humanity has already made its choice. The speaker's eyes glowed brighter. He seemed ready to speak, but Daniel stepped back from the center, refusing to bow his head. His delegation stood with him, silent but united. No one dared move against them. Guards stood at the edges of the chamber, uncertain. Even the elder powers hesitated, unwilling to give the order to strike. For the first time in centuries, the council did not know what to do. Daniel looked across the sea of alien faces one last time. In their anger he saw fear. In their fear he saw respect, though none of them would admit it. Humanity had revealed its hand, and the galaxy would never see Earth the same way again. The council chamber was filled with noise once more, but Daniel no longer listened. The storm belonged to the others. Humanity had already spoken. The council chamber was in chaos. Voices shouted over one another, filled with anger, fear, and disbelief. Some demanded immediate punishment for Earth. Others argued that the humans had to be contained before their strength grew further. A few whispered that it was already too late. Daniel stood at the center, silent. The silver device on the table had done its work. Every delegate in the chamber had seen Earth's fleets, and none could forget what they had just witnessed. The speaker raised his clawed hand, striking the podium with enough force to send a loud crack through the hall. The noise silenced the chamber, though the tension in the air did not fade. His glowing eyes locked on Daniel. "Human representative," the speaker said, his voice rumbling like thunder, "your actions today have disgraced this chamber. You have shown disrespect to the order that has kept the galaxy from tearing itself apart. The council will decide your punishment, and you will remain here until that decision is made." The words were final. The speaker expected Daniel to obey, as countless species had before. No one ever walked away from the council's judgment. But Daniel did not sit down. He did not bow his head. Instead, he spoke with a calmness that carried through the entire hall. "With respect, Speaker, the council will not decide humanity's fate. Humanity already has." The chamber froze. The words seemed simple, but they broke the unspoken rule of the council that no species could claim freedom without its approval. Daniel reached forward and closed the silver device. Then he turned and began walking toward the exit. His delegation followed, their footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. "Stop them," shouted a scaled envoy, rising to his feet. "They defy us openly. They must be restrained." Several guards moved toward the humans, their weapons at the ready. But then they hesitated. The humans did not draw weapons, nor did they look afraid. They walked calmly, side by side, as if nothing could touch them. The guards glanced at one another, uncertain. To lay hands on them might start something the council was not ready to face. The speaker's voice roared again. "You dare turn your back on this chamber? Humanity will suffer for this insult." Daniel paused at the great doors of the chamber and looked back only once. His voice was steady, carrying above the noise. "We came here to build trust. We found only fear. You do not want equals. You want subjects. That is not who we are. Humanity leaves this council. From this day forward, our path is our own." The words fell like a hammer. Never before in the history of the council had a species chosen to walk away. Many had been expelled, punished, or destroyed, but none had left by their own will. The great doors opened, and the humans stepped out. Behind them, the chamber erupted into pure chaos. Some envoys shouted that Earth must be destroyed at once. Others demanded fleets be gathered to blockade human space. But there were also voices of doubt. A few spoke of the danger in provoking a species that had just shown such strength. And some, the smaller races who had suffered under the Council's strict rules, whispered of something else: hope. The speaker struck the podium again and again, but the chamber no longer obeyed him. Order had been shattered. The Council had faced rebellions before, but this was different. Humanity had not begged for mercy. They had not hidden their power. They had walked out with calm defiance, and that act alone shook the very foundation of galactic politics. Outside the chamber, Daniel and his delegation moved through the grand halls of the Council station. Alien envoys and aides hurried past them, whispering in shock. Some stared at the humans with open fear. Others looked at them with quiet admiration. One aide, a small creature with bright eyes, dared to speak as Daniel passed. "You are not afraid?" Daniel looked at him, his expression calm. "Fear is not the same as surrender." The aide said nothing more, but his eyes shone with something new. The human delegation reached the docking bay, where their shuttle waited. The ship was plain compared to the ornate vessels of other envoys, but its engines were ready, humming with power. As the humans boarded, the guards at the bay doors still did not move to stop them. No one wanted to be the first to test Earth's resolve. Inside the shuttle, the younger members of the delegation looked at Daniel. One of them, a woman with sharp eyes, asked, "Do you think they will follow us?" Daniel fastened his seat belt and answered calmly, "Of course they will. They fear us too much to let us go. But fear also keeps them from striking first. That gives us time. Time is all humanity needs." The shuttle lifted off, sliding smoothly into the dark of space. Behind them, the council chamber still roared with argument and confusion. Ahead of them lay the stars, wide and open, with no one left to give orders. For the first time since joining the council, Earth was free. The galaxy had demanded submission, but humanity had walked away instead. What came next, no one knew. But one truth was clear: the balance of power had shifted, and nothing would ever be the same again. News of humanity's departure spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, every major network broadcast the scene of Daniel leaving the council chamber. Millions watched the moment when the humans turned their backs and walked away. The council had never been defied like that. Entire empires were left speechless. On distant worlds, reactions were mixed. In the grand halls of the elder races, anger burned hot. Leaders called emergency meetings, demanding fleets be prepared. To them, Earth's refusal was not just defiance, it was rebellion. No one had ever left the council by choice. To allow it now would set a dangerous example. On smaller worlds, the response was very different. Farmers on the edges of council space, miners who worked under heavy taxes, and traders forced into unfair contracts all saw the humans with new eyes. For the first time, someone had said no to the council and lived to tell about it. Whispers of respect spread like fire. The speaker of the council tried to calm the storm. In a broadcast sent across the galaxy, he declared, "Humanity has chosen a reckless path. Their departure is dangerous, not only to themselves but to all of us. The council will not allow chaos. We will restore balance." But the speaker's words did not erase the image of Daniel walking calmly out of the chamber. That image was burned into the minds of every citizen. To many, it looked less like recklessness and more like courage. In the capital city of the Kelter Dominion, one of the oldest powers, their ruler struck his staff against the floor as he addressed his council. The humans must be taught their place. If they spread further, our borders will be threatened. We will not wait for them to challenge us. We must act first. In another part of the galaxy, the rulers of the Saren League argued among themselves. Their fleets were strong, but their trade routes had already begun to rely on Earth's growing network of merchants. Some wanted to punish Earth alongside the others. Some warned that doing so would break their fragile economy. Among the smaller powers, the tone was far less hostile. On a modest moon where 3 species shared a single city, a merchant spoke to his fellow traders. When pirates struck, the council sent no help. It was human ships that drove them away. Now the council wants to destroy the same humans who saved us. Tell me, who truly deserves our loyalty? The question spread, repeated in markets, spaceports, and colonies across the stars. For every voice that called humanity dangerous, another voice whispered that maybe the humans had the right idea. Back on Earth, the news was met not with fear but with determination. Crowds filled the streets of major cities, watching the recordings of Daniel's speech. For years, Earth had worried about the Council's demands. Now, that burden was gone. They were free to make their own choices. Factories pushed into overdrive, building ships, weapons, and supplies. Scientists worked day and night, developing new technologies without having to seek permission. In a meeting of Earth's leaders, Daniel stood once more before his people. The Council will not forgive us for walking away. They will send fleets, perhaps soon. But we are ready. And more than that, we are not alone. Many eyes watched us leave that chamber. Some saw fear. Others saw hope. The galaxy will learn what it means to face humanity. Even as he spoke, messages were arriving from across space. Some were threats, filled with promises of destruction. But others were quiet offers of trade, requests for alliance, or simple words of thanks. Species that had never dared speak against the Council now reached out to Earth, testing to see if the humans would answer. Not all humans welcomed the danger. In small towns and colonies, some asked if it would have been wiser to stay quiet, to accept the Council's demands. But each time doubt rose, others reminded them of history. Earth had never bowed to empires. Humanity had survived wars, disasters, and endless struggle. This was only another test. Meanwhile, in the council chamber itself, the storm had not ended. Days after the humans' departure, the delegates were still divided. Some demanded immediate war. Others begged for caution. Old rivalries resurfaced, each power afraid that another might try to use humanity's rebellion for its own gain. The speaker tried to unite them, but his authority had been shaken. The simple fact that guards had let the humans leave without force was seen as weakness. Some whispered that the speaker's time was ending. For the first time in centuries, the council no longer looked unshakable. A crack had appeared, and through that crack, humanity had stepped into history. In the farthest corners of space, a new phrase began to spread among the common people. It was spoken in markets, in the quiet of ships, and in the shadows of colonies. They walked away. 3 simple words, but filled with meaning. The humans had walked away from the oldest and strongest power in the galaxy, and they had not looked back. Whether that act would lead to war or freedom, no one yet knew. But one truth was certain: the galaxy would never forget the day humanity left the Council without warning. The skies above Earth glowed with activity. Shipyards that had once worked at a steady pace now thundered day and night. Great frames of steel and alloy hung in orbit, slowly shaping into cruisers, carriers, and freighters. Docks along the Moon and Mars were crowded with workers, both human and machine, laboring without rest. Humanity no longer needed permission from the Council to build. The restrictions that once bound them were gone. Every factory, every port, and every scientist now worked with one clear purpose: to make Earth strong enough to stand alone. Inside the command chamber of Earth's Defense Council, Daniel stood before a large map of the stars. Colored lights showed the movement of human fleets across the regions near home. The red marks represented Council patrols, which had begun to watch human borders with growing suspicion. "They are afraid to attack openly," Daniel said, pointing to the red marks, "but they are watching us closely. The moment they believe we are weak, they will strike. Until then, we must prepare, and we must act." Around the table, Earth's leaders listened. Some were generals, some scientists, some elected officials, but all carried the same determination. They knew the danger. They also knew the opportunity. A general with gray hair leaned forward. "Our fleets are strong, but numbers alone will not protect us. The Council has centuries of experience in war. If they unite, their fleets will outnumber ours 10 to 1. Daniel nodded. "That is why we must build more than fleets. We must build alliances." Those words carried weight. For weeks, quiet messages had reached Earth from small worlds across the galaxy. Miners, traders, and even small governments had begun to send cautious signals, offering friendship in exchange for protection. These were not powerful empires, but they were voices eager for change. A diplomat at the table unfolded a report. "The colonies on the edge of Council space want to trade directly with us. They are tired of paying endless taxes to the elder races. If we supply them, they will stand with us." Another leader added, "The Council will call this rebellion." Daniel's eyes were steady. "It is not rebellion. It is choice. And choice is something the Council has tried to crush for centuries. If we give others that freedom, they will not forget it." Beyond strategy, Earth also worked on its defenses. Engineers tested new weapons, designed not only to fight but to surprise. Human scientists had always been skilled at innovation, and without Council restrictions, their progress was faster than ever. Energy shields were being redesigned. Faster engines were tested. New armor was built to resist weapons the Council had used for centuries. In orbit, a new class of ship was completed. Sleek, heavily armed, and faster than anything Earth had built before, it was named the Liberty. When it launched, its engines lit the sky above Earth. Crowds on the surface cheered as the ship disappeared into the black. It was more than a warship. It was a symbol. But humanity knew symbols alone would not be enough. Reports came daily of Council fleets massing near contested zones. The elder races could not agree on how to deal with Earth, but many were preparing for war. Each argued for their own plan, but none dared strike first, fearing the cost. Their disunity gave Earth precious time. Still, time was fragile. On a distant colony, a group of merchants loyal to the Council refused to trade with Earth's ships. When pirates struck, they sent a call for help. The Council promised aid, but no fleet came. Instead, a squadron of human ships responded. They drove the pirates off and delivered supplies. The colonists watched as human soldiers handed out food and medicine. No taxes were demanded. No tribute was taken. One elder whispered, "The Council has ruled us for centuries, but it is the humans who save us." Word of such moments spread quickly. For every threat made by the Council, there was a story of human aid, human ships, or human courage. Slowly, quietly, the balance began to shift. Back on Earth, Daniel walked through the shipyards. Sparks rained from metal as welders sealed the hull of a new vessel. Workers lifted their heads as he passed, saluting with pride. They knew he had stood before the council and refused to bow. His presence reminded them why they labored day and night. One young worker spoke as Daniel stopped nearby. "Sir, do you think we can hold against them all?" Daniel placed a hand on the steel of the unfinished ship and answered simply. "We do not need to hold against them all. We only need to show that we will not break. Once they see that, others will stand with us." The worker nodded, his eyes shining with determination. Humanity was no longer a voice at the council's table. They were a power building their own path, carving it from steel, sweat, and wool. Above Earth, the Liberty completed its first patrol, engines glowing bright against the stars. Beyond it, more ships followed. Humanity's fleets spread outward, guarding colonies, protecting trade, and claiming their place among the stars. The council could watch. They could argue. They could threaten. But humanity no longer asked their permission. Humanity stood alone, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy began to wonder if standing alone might mean standing stronger. The Galactic Council chamber once again filled with voices, but the sound was different now. Where once there had been shouting and authority, now there was fear and division. Delegates argued, not about how to control humanity, but about how to survive in a galaxy where humanity no longer obeyed. Some of the elder races demanded war. They shouted that humans must be crushed before their example spread further. Others argued for peace, fearing what humans had already achieved in such little time. The chamber echoed with endless speeches, but no decision could be made. Every empire wanted action, yet none trusted the others enough to unite. On the giant screens above the chamber, reports flashed of human fleets moving freely across contested borders. Colonies once loyal to the Council were now trading directly with Earth. Independent systems sent messages declaring that they would no longer follow Council orders. The old balance of power was breaking, and it was breaking faster than anyone had expected. One delegate of a smaller race stood up and spoke in a trembling voice. "We begged the Council for protection for centuries. We paid our taxes, sent our resources, and received nothing but empty promises. When pirates attacked, it was not the Council who came. It was the humans. And they asked for nothing in return. Tell me, who is the true leader of the galaxy now?" The chamber fell silent at those words. Many wanted to deny it, but deep inside, they knew it was true. Humanity had become the example others were ready to follow. Far from the council chambers, Earth celebrated. The ship Liberty had returned from its patrols with stories of victories against raiders and successful aid to struggling colonies. Crowds filled the streets of major cities, waving flags, chanting the names of their fleets, and cheering for the future they were building. For the first time, humans felt not only united as one world, but as one people standing tall in the galaxy. Daniel walked through those cheering crowds, humbled by their spirit. He remembered the day he had stood in the council chamber, surrounded by anger and threats. He had walked out knowing it was a risk, but now he saw the result. Humanity was not isolated. They were admired, respected, and even followed. In the great shipyards above Earth, more vessels took shape. Carriers, destroyers, and freighters expanded the growing fleet. The hum of engines and the glow of welding sparks filled space like stars being born. These were not only tools of war. They were also lifelines of trade, exploration, and friendship with those who sought freedom from the Council's grip. On a frontier colony that once bowed to the Council, a group of alien farmers stood in their fields as a human ship landed. Supplies rolled out, and human soldiers helped repair damaged homes. The eldest farmer whispered, "They came again. Not to demand, not to command, but to help." From that day forward, the colony declared itself under the protection of Earth. Every such act spread like fire across the galaxy. Small voices began to rise against the Council, not with violence, but with choice. They wanted the right to decide their own future, and humanity's example gave them courage. Back on Earth, Daniel met with the Defense Council. Maps of the stars filled the room, showing not only human fleets but also the growing number of worlds that supported them. "The galaxy will test us," Daniel said, his voice steady. "The Council will try to divide us, threaten us, and perhaps attack us. But they cannot undo what has already begun. The age of fear is ending. The age of choice is rising. And we will lead it." The leaders nodded in agreement. They knew the risks, but they also knew the truth. Humanity had faced storms before: wars, famine, division, and struggle. They had always survived, and now, united, they were stronger than ever. As weeks turned to months, the Council's authority weakened. Some elder races withdrew into isolation. Others tried to strike alliances with Earth, desperate to secure their future. Still, many clung to the dream of control, plotting war but unable to gather enough strength to launch it. Humanity's example had shattered the old order, and no single power could put it back together. One night, Daniel stood on the balcony of Earth's capital, looking at the stars. He thought of the future, of the challenges that lay ahead, and of the unknown threats waiting beyond known space. Yet he also thought of the children growing up on Earth and on the colonies, children who would never bow their heads to distant masters. They would inherit a galaxy where humanity had proven that freedom could not be taken away. Above him, the Liberty and its escort ships passed silently across the sky, their lights twinkling like guardians. It was a reminder that humanity was no longer just defending itself. It was shaping the future of an entire galaxy. In the council chamber, the empty seat once meant for humanity remained untouched. It stood as a reminder of what had been lost, but also of what had been gained. The council could argue, rage, and fear, but the truth was clear. Humanity had left without warning, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The unstoppable future had arrived, and it carried the name of Earth.